In here.
To most Americans, Barbara Bush was known for her trademark white hair and pearls. But to those who knew her best, her family, she was simply
the enforcer.
The enforcer.
Your mom's nickname?
The enforcer.
A tough but loving mother and grandmother with a wicked sense of humor.
Like she wears a size, 2 and my leg is a size 2 or something.
And a strict rule book.
If you violated them, she would enforce the rules and do it in a way that was pretty effective.
For example, if we left clothes on the floor in our room, or didn't hang up a wet bathing suit, grandmother would be very direct, and you'd hear it sometimes from the other side of the house or even outside, for us to get our butt back inside and clean up quickly.
It didn't matter who you were.
She was the sergeant.
And he was reading his paper, and Barbara looked over at him. George, take your feet off my table. I said, the guy is President of the United States of America. Give him a break. No, he knows better than that.
Your mom didn't hold her tongue?
No, not at all. Mother was on the front line and expressed herself frequently. Mother was there to maintain order and discipline.
I am the enforcer. There's no question about it.
But you got angrier than your husband, didn't you?
Always.
Still does. You're feistier than him.
True.
When it came to her husband, former President George H.W. Bush, she was loving.
He was Superman, still is.
And devoted.
You can criticize me, but don't criticize my husband or you're dead.
Always fiercely protective of her husband, but in a way that avoided the pitfalls of some other first ladies who have seemed overly intrusive.
His not-so-secret weapon.
She had a foot with the family and a foot in his career. This idea that she was not politically involved is not true. She was there.
Barbara was someone too who could tell George what she thought, and she would, just like she could tell everybody what she thought, and she would.
I'm not sure that my grandfather would have obtained nearly as many accolades as he did, but for my grandmother.
Critical political partner.
An essential political partner.
Together for more than 70 years, the Bushes were the longest married couple in presidential history. A love story documented in hundreds of letters between the two.
I love you, precious, with all my heart, and to know that you love me means my life. How often I have thought about the immeasurable joy that will be ours someday. How lucky our children will be to have a mother like you. And then later in the letter, good night, my beautiful. Every time I say beautiful, you about kill me, but you'll have to accept it.
The public also loved Barbara Bush, making her one of the most popular first ladies in recent history, even though she didn't see it that way.
Why don't you like the word popular?
Well, because I don't think it's true, and I don't know how to cope with it, and I just don't like it. And I don't want you to stand up and say, here comes the least popular woman either. I mean, it just makes me very uncomfortable.
But she used her platform to improve literacy, raising awareness and hundreds of millions of dollars to benefit the cause.
If more people could read and write and comprehend crime, everything would be better.
Occasionally, there was some controversy. In 1990, when Mrs. Bush was asked to speak at Wellesley's commencement ceremony, students protested, claiming she wasn't feminist enough. She responded with a speech that brought everyone to their feet.
Who knows? Somewhere out in this audience may even be someone who will one day follow in my footsteps and preside over the White House as the president's spouse. And I wish him well.
That political savviness made her a force on the campaign trail well into her 90s. During the 2016 presidential primaries, Mrs. Bush gave one of her last television interviews to CNN while stumping for her son, Jeb.
What do you really think of Donald Trump?
I do not. I don't even think about him. I'm sick of him.
Classic Barbara Bush, with no-nonsense candor that sometimes made headlines. This was her response to Alaska Governor Sarah Palin's 2012 presidential hopes.
I think she's very happy in Alaska, and I hope she'll stay there.
And she made news again when asked about her own son Jeb running for the White House 2 years before he did.
He's by far the best qualified man, but no. There are other people out there that are very qualified, and we've had enough Bushes.
She also broke the news to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas that he had the job before her husband officially picked him.
I greeted her and she said, "Congratulations." And that's when I knew. And she said, "Oh, I guess I let the cat out of the bag."
A few years later, after her husband's loss to Bill Clinton, comedian Dana Carvey performed at the White House.
We walked into their bedroom, and there's a big wall of televisions. And on one TV was a close-up of Bill Clinton, the new president. Another TV, there was a picture of Ross Perot. So they're side by side. And she just walks in, looks over, sees the two of them, and goes, I can't figure out which clown to look at.
I'd imagine it took her a lot longer to forgive me than it did him. And maybe she never has.
It took me a little while, I confess.
But eventually she came around, and Bill Clinton went from political foe to unofficial family member.
I love Bill Clinton. Maybe not his politics, but I love Bill Clinton.
I'd walk across coals for her. I think she's immensely impressive.
A sentiment echoed by her family.
She is so smart, so sharp, so aware. She's witty, she's wise. She's kind of got that fierce mama bear type instinct. She'll defend and support any son or daughter or family member that gets into any kind of trouble. She's been a passionate advocate for literacy. So my mom's amazing.
I think the reasons that my cousins and I have kind of turned out to be productive citizens and have never taken the fact that we were grandkids of the president for granted is because of Barbara Bush.
Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, all part of the life and legacy of Barbara Pierce Bush.
The one request I have is that they stay loving siblings. And so far, so good. And I'll be looking down.